We're live. This is Sebastian. I'm the founder of Haystack Reviews, and we're going to do some interesting things today with app reviews. We will first do some analysis of some app reviews for the Trello Android application and see what users have to say on Google Play about Trello. And then something that I kind of do on the side with some of these reviews, but maybe we can talk about that a little bit more formally, is how we can mine reviews for text. And I'm not an expert in this area by any means. I've only known about mining app reviews and mining text for a couple, maybe a month or two now. But this is something that's pretty fun and pretty cool. And so I'll talk through this, and we can talk about certain phrases that are interesting for us as an app creator. And even if you're like the product owner of the Trello application, or maybe even a competitor, for example, this is something that you would want to take a look at. So the first thing we'll do is take a look at just user feedback from Google Play that Trello users are leaving for the Trello application. We'll try to see if there's anything that's unique or interesting within those reviews as well, and we'll go from there. This will be about 25 minutes long in terms of our session today. Again, I'm experimenting. I'm seeing what people are interested in, what they like. This broadcast I'm doing not to a live audience, but I'll definitely have it available for folks afterwards. But I'm curious what people like and what they want to see more of. So if you have any comments or suggestions, visit me at haystackreviews.com, and you can contact me there. My name's Seb again. So let's get going. So for this first review from Andrew Orrell, this was left on October 24th, and it's a 2-star rating. It says, "Making a board offline removes it from view and I can't get them back. That's kind of pointless and irritating." So this is not necessarily possible. I believe I've set boards to offline without any issue within the Trello application. There's different things we could do. Last stream, we spent a lot of time digging into specific detail issues. In this case, I would probably just simply mark this review as the user needs help. This is not necessarily the application does allow you to move a board offline. So for the sake of brevity, we can just start out and mark this entire review as the user needs help. And this would be, they left a 2-star review. So that means that there's 3 stars on this review that we could gain back if we were to help this user. So I'll update this review to have 3 lost stars. And I'll open up the Android emulator in the background. We can get that emulator if we need to. I'll load it up on the screen actually over here. Give me 1 second. Probably should have loaded that up before I even started. But yeah, let's open up the Trello application. So I opened up the emulator, and let me share that on the screen as well. Give me 1 second. I'll pop that up right above my head over here on the right. All right, so you should be able to see the emulator over here. And then I have a couple things on this test board. And the user reports, when they go offline, they can't necessarily get them back. So there's a feature here to be able to go offline If you go to board settings, I believe, let's see where that is. Available offline. A board content will sync for offline viewing. Card attachment will not be available. Cool. So we could go offline. And if we were to turn on airplane mode, for example, you can go in here and you can still add a card. No problem. And then it has that little syncing icon. We're good there. And then whenever we want to return online, turn off airplane mode. This card should sync. So I'll give it a second. Let's see if we can force it to sync. Guess we couldn't force it. Let's try to go out of it, back in there. Okay, so it still hasn't shown as synced, but that should happen. But the user is complaining about something else, right? They're complaining about offline. It removes it from view. So essentially removing the board from their view, or maybe the list or the cards from the view, and they can't get them back. So they need help. This could be a bug, but well, that's true, right? I was a little quick to judge that maybe the user needs some help, because they know exactly what they're doing. They're removing it from the board. They're removing the board, or they're setting the board to offline, and then it's removed. So in that case, thinking about this more, right, that we went through that process and played with it, the immediate judgment of, this user needs help might not be necessarily the case. Like, this user could definitely be having, they know exactly what they want, and the system's not behaving. So we can always amend this issue too. And we haven't seen an issue like this before. It could be related to syncing. I would be interested in that. So let me check out the syncing issue. I'm going to go to my console here in the background, and I'll read you what the syncing issue is. So user reports issues in syncing between the app and other Trello devices. I don't necessarily think that's the same issue in terms of syncing. I mean, this user has a very specific problem in being able to see the item. So making a board offline removes it from view, and I can't get them back. That's kind of pointless and irritating. Yeah. So if we go back to the application, like this in time, this card synced. So add card offline, sync to online, and yeah. So this at this point, I would chalk this up to possibly a more info item, which is what we typically do if something's a little bit vague and we don't necessarily understand the complete issue, or can't have something that's very obvious in terms of reproducibility. So we might want to do that. So I can go back in here to this section. I can change the tag to more info as well. I try to have as few items in that need more info. They're just like only if we really need to, and I think in this case it's deserving of it. So let's go on to the next one. And oh yeah, for the mining of reviews portion, I think offline is actually an interesting word. And I believe the Trello team plays with offline. If you're a competitor, looking at offline would be interesting. So let's go to the Google Play Trello screen. And you won't be able to see this. I'm just opening this in another tab. I'm just going to see if they have offline mention anywhere in the marketing material. I assume they do. Yeah, so it says Trello works offline, right? And so that's probably something that, if you're searching for an application for cards, maybe you're searching for offline support. That would be something to be interested in looking at and going after. So let's go to the next review. I'll try to go again. This pace is kind of slow in the first one. I tend to get pretty sucked into these, right? Like really wanting to help the user out. And that's usually a good thing, right? Usually you can find some patterns there, but for the sake of the review, I'll try to go a little bit faster for you guys. And when talking something out loud, obviously I do go slower, but I'll try to have a nice middle ground between those 2 points of speed and also explaining something. So for Pedro Henrique Garcia, he gave a 1 star on October 23rd. And Pedro says, unable to disable the Butler power-up. Trello is starting to get bloated, starting to waste my time instead of helping me organize it. And so there's 2 issues here. The first one is for power-ups. And power-ups are these paid features that you can have over here. So I'm opening up the Trello application. And let's say we open up the Maps power-up. Darn, it looks like you've reached your power-up limits for this board. To unlock more, and then turn it off right here. I don't think the Butler power-up is available for Android. I will do a quick search in another screen. This could be a specific issue. Yeah, Butler, because I know they took some of the power-ups out. Just looking at some of the reviews previously. And this could be a case where, the user previously had Butler on, and then maybe the Android team turned it off. All right, the ability to even toggle that stuff. And so I'd be curious if the Trello team responded to this user. So I'm gonna press the View in Store tab. So we're gonna actually go to the review. And so yeah, I think this is a legitimate problem. So this would be related to power-ups. And we do have a category for power-ups in particular. So if you look at the power-up support, yeah. So that's a general issue for power-ups. In this case, like the user's actually having like a problem. So they're not asking for like more power-ups. They're asking for, this is like a bug, right? And so I would chalk this up to like, and this is kind of specific, right? Like I assume the Trello team could go in the back end and like try to help this user out, and maybe there's a way to toggle Butler off. But like, what does this even mean? Like, from an Android perspective, for the Trello team, like if they can't disable Butler, like what is the user seeing? Like, is the user actually seeing Butler in the application? I assume not. How does the user know Butler is toggled on? Like this opens up kind of another can of worms for trying to help this user. I say for this first part, we know what the issue is related to, right? But in terms of how to help the user, like that could be different. I could mark this as help, like, but typically help is for stuff like that already exists or that works well. Yeah, this is a little tougher, right? We could make a new category or a new set of issues saying like something needs to be toggled or broken on the back end. But let's think about like the proper way to phrase this or present this as an issue that's actionable. And I think one of it would be like, I mean, we could broaden the scope of the power-ups issue instead of just adding more, just the ability to like toggle off power-ups, or we could make a separate issue. We could say this specifically, like, you know, users having a specific problem here, being able to turn off a power-up. Yeah. My gut would say to make a separate issue here. And I say we do that, right? So let's make a separate issue. Cannot remove disable power up. And we can say I'm typing in what is the actual issue. And so in this case, the issue is user cannot disable an old power up. Is it old or I'd say deprecated? It's probably the better word. Cannot disable a deprecated power up. And so if we go here, I'll refresh the screen and you should see this new item appear over here. And so when I highlight this text, we can mark it as disable power up. Then the other item, Trello, is starting to get bloated. It's starting to waste my time instead of helping me organize. Yeah, I mean, this is not, it's somewhat specific, like the user's talking about, you know, the application being, you know, maybe getting too complex, right? They don't say exactly what's complex about it, but I would do this as probably design issue. So we have a design issue over here. And we can add the user to that. So we'll do that. And the user left, this Pedro user left 1 star. I would equally divide these issues between the two. So I would say, if, you know, theoretically, if we were to fix something for Pedro, I'll reload this page. So I just added this on the back end. The Pedro would have lost, you know, if we were to fix this bloated issue or somehow simplify the application, theoretically, Pedro would give us a 3-star rating as opposed to a 1 star. And similar to helping him out with Butler, we'd get a 3-star rating. And then if we help that with both, we get a 5-star. So let's think about this. There's some interesting words in here that if we were to mine this, right? So the idea of power-ups is interesting, like extensions. So I'm just jotting this down in a notepad off screen. And then also for like clean, bloat, concise, like those types of words would be interesting. So taking a look at the Trello, so if you go to the, I'm actually on the Google Play site for Trello Android. I'm just curious if they have anything related to UI, UX. And there's a number of reviews saying like, oh, it's getting clunky. And I don't see anything. I mean, there's stuff related to organization, transparency. Simple, they have simple. So they have that word, which is probably pretty good for mining. But yeah, maybe there's something, you know, that could be interesting play if you're mining keywords, looking at clean, bloat, concise. Maybe there's other synonyms of simple that people search for, but simple is probably a good one. And then the power-up extensions, I assume they list power-ups. And that's a marketing feature. They call that power-ups, like calendar, view of your due dates. So they mention a couple of the specific power-ups in the review itself. but I'm curious if, looking for extension or customize or configured, or maybe there are other specific power-ups that users are looking for. Butler is very specific to Trello, and I think that's one of their automated extensions. So that'd be interesting if you're mining these keywords. So we got 2 reviews in 15 minutes. We'll try to get at least 1 or 2 more. So we'll go into the next one. This is an excellent to-do app, and I assume they have to have to-do on the store. Okay, so there is, they mentioned to-do lists within the first couple sentences. So I assume they're covering that area, and they're monitoring that word. I assume to-do ranks pretty high actually on the App Store when people search. Okay, this is a 1-star review, and just to clarify, that previous review was a 5-star review. There's nothing to mark or identify in that review. We're just trying to analyze words, at least from this point of view, on negative feedback or feature requests or bugs. If the user gives really positive feedback, we should still look at what words they're leaving. Maybe we'll make a note of that. Currently in the software that I have for Haystack, I don't do any automated analysis of keywords. I do that all manually, but presenting that to somebody who's interested in mining words, I can definitely present that as a report on the side. I think I want to play with that feature a little bit more in terms of how I might present that in an automated way to users of this software. But I'm just pointing out this is stuff that I look at as I go along, right? And look at reviews, especially negative ones. Like they're really eye-opening. So for this user, they say they won't let me log in. Same credentials work fine on browser on a PC. Oh, and the other thing, sorry, I'm interrupting myself. I wanted to make this bigger, the text. I noticed on the stream that I did last time, the text was really small. So I made a note I didn't make a note to it. I made a mental note. I should have used Trello to make the note to make the text bigger for streaming. But let me do that. So you should be able to see the text much larger now. I'll also add this maybe to a checklist for next time as well, just to make things a little bit easier. Don't forget to increase font size before presenting. Yeah. So that was my bad for not doing that at first. So you should be able to see it much clearer now. And yeah, so some things might be a little oddly adjusted at this font size, but that's okay. So we'll see, won't let me log in. Same credentials work fine on browser on a PC. Used to work on this phone, had to factory reset phone, so had to reinstall Trello. Now can't log in. Clear data, uninstalled and reinstalled, no luck. So we have a number of issues related to cannot log in from previous analysis. I would mark all of this as cannot log in. So this other data is kind of interesting. It gives quite a bit of context in terms of what the user has tried before, and as a developer, and anytime you're dealing with authentication, you always want to know, what state is the app previously in, and this is like a super pristine, clear state. So the fact that, excuse me, woke up pretty early this morning. The fact that the user can't log in is very interesting given this information. So we'll mark this as cannot log in. We'll save these changes, and the user left. This Daniel user left only 1 star. So we're gonna try to, if we were to fix this issue, theoretically we would get 4 stars from this. So that makes sense. And is there anything we could mine from this? I don't know. There's some interesting stuff like browser and PC. like that is cross-functional, because these user seems to be enjoying their experience across those devices. If there's anything mentioned a PC, browser, no. There's nothing on the Trello text for that. I guess syncing, nothing like that. Yeah, so that might be interesting to play around with. The other thing that I've always had a question on that I'll, maybe somebody else in the community knows is, I know this text in these different reviews, does influence the ranking, or the app search for the search ranking for words and phrases. I'm curious to know for negative reviews, right? If a user is complaining about something like, this to-do app is horrible, if that positively influences if a user does search for to-do, right? And if they search for to-do, even though there was a negative connotation or negative semantic with that review, does that actually help the to-do keyword? And I don't know. I assume Google has some semantic analysis to try to help out with some of those phrasing. Some of the stuff in the Google Play store, if you're an app developer and look at your reviews, some of the insights that they're pulling out are pretty interesting. But it's a black box, right? You can't. It's hard for you to really know what they're getting at. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. I'd like to explore further. Again, most of this mining stuff is pretty new to me. So, but it's definitely fun. So this user is happy. They get 4 stars, but they're happy. They say it's excellent, free organizational tool. Tricky part is deciding how best to use it. And we do have an issue related to helping beginners out. And I think that we could, from my gut analysis, is chalk it up to like this user wants more beginner help. And maybe there's some information out there, but maybe as an Android user, when you open up the app, you're not as familiar with it. Typically, most applications have some type of onboarding process, and they have a couple screens that detail you and tell you how to do something, but those are pretty lame, and most users skip over them. The interesting part is to see how to help this user. So you could probably reach out to this David Bell and get a sense of like what they're talking about, right? So we've taken a look. We're going back in time as we go forward, and the review IDs. 22nd. Yeah, we are going back in time a little bit. That's okay. Let's take a look. Oh, so this review is in Russian. Even though we pulled, we asked for English language reviews, the the user could have their device. I assume for Google Play, whatever their language their device is set to, that's what they'll tag the review as, and then the user could mix languages or leave whatever language they want in there. So in this case, I'd actually usually use Google Translate to break apart this sentence by sentence and try to see if there's something there. This user left 3 stars, or 2 stars, so there's 3 stars lost. I would stop here and just, I don't want to make this too long. This was kind of, just an introductory, just to show you how I looked at a couple of the reviews and also experiment with this. See, even getting the stream set up is also an experiment for me. But I'll stop at this review 1123 within my system. I'll make a note that we stopped at 1123. So next week, I'll make sure to increase the font and start at review 1123. And I'm also interested to see like where people are, can come from. Like, who is interested in this? Like, what do you want to see out of it? Where, is this a good time? Is this a good day of the week to do this? I'm doing this live, but obviously I'll post this recording afterwards. But those are the types of questions I'm going to ask. I think 30 minutes is probably a good time. Probably between 30 minutes and an hour would be ideal. And I'd like to get a little bit more community conversation going. So I'll be doing that over the next couple weeks. And the goal right now, I'm just planning to do this on Wednesdays, probably around lunch Pacific time. But yeah, I'd be interested in seeing how I can expand this and seeing, getting more people involved, getting more people listening to this, maybe while they work a little bit, and just get a little bit more feedback as we do this live. And doing it live is fun, right? It's you're dealing with what comes at you, and you're not necessarily sure of what will come all the time. And so I enjoy that element. So I'll do some promotion of this probably for the next week. I'm not sure exactly where, but yeah, get a little bit more community involvement, and hope to see you next week around the same time. Again, my name's Seb. If you have any questions, you can contact me at seb@haystackreviews.com. And I look forward to speaking with you guys next week.